thank you for joining us yet again for That Solo Life, the podcast for PR pros and marketers who work for themselves. I am Michelle Kane. My company is Voice Matters. I'm here as always with my lovely co-host, Karen Swim. She leads us all over at Solo PR Pro. And how are you today, Karen? It's February.
Great. It's been months. I'm good, Michelle. How are you?
I'm good. I mean, yeah, it's a short month. It's a hopeful month. We're starting to see that sunlight last a little longer on those days that we get sunlight, which
Yeah.
is promising. And yeah, it's been a buzzy month, which I'm not going to complain too much about, except it's like, okay, give me a second. Everyone, just give me a second. So yeah, but today we're continuing our conversations on DEI and diversity, and really, we know a lot of organizations come with that challenge of, okay, well, how do we make sure we're doing this, and how do we make sure we're doing it right, and where does a PR person come in to kind of help, offer advice or provide some kind of guidance in that respect. So we're gonna hit it hard and fast and try
Yeah.
and give you some juicy tidbits to think on.
I love that. And I mean, and we really are discussing this from the PR practitioner's perspective
Yeah.
about guiding and leading clients through these discussions, not as DEI experts. I just want to make that super clear because neither of us, that's not our area of expertise.
No, it's not. That is a whole deep field.
Yeah,
But
it is.
yeah. So yeah, so I love that organizations are actually taking this on and that they're cognizant of it, that it extends beyond, do we have enough ladies in this group? It's like, really, guys?
Yeah,
Check the calendar.
I
No.
agree.
And I have to say, no, that's certainly made its strides. But, as we were talking off air, the area I live in is predominantly white. And so, as much as you might try, have the desire, how do you do that in a genuine way?
Yeah.
That doesn't feel contrived or incredibly awkward. And I mean, honestly, if I were advising my clients, I might advise them just, well, don't just go for it right away. Start doing subtle, organic, what feels right things within your organization, whether that's types of events you sponsor, even lunches that you have with people. Start on a personal level and really make those relationships happen is a bit of advice I would give to some of the people I deal with.
Yeah, I think for companies, one thing that I like to keep in mind is that when it comes to DEI, a big portion of this is identifying where your blind spots are. And as a communicator, I'm always going to advocate for knowing who your audience is and understanding how to not only talk to them, but to represent them.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, you may be a company that is physically based in a location where there's very little diversity, but is that reflective of your audience? And, of course, we know that diversity is not just race and gender and ethnicity, but it's also
Right.
diversity of thought, diversity of experience. If you are a predominantly white company and you only work with people who graduated from an Ivy League school, you are really narrowing your lens and seeing the world through a very similar lens that could prohibit you from reaching your full audience. And so, take a step back and I do value and believe in having experts that can help you to do audits of where those blind spots are, not just you. Because again, if it's just you and you're all the same and you all look the same and you all are coming from the same worldview, you're not going to be effective in really understanding what your challenges are.
Right. And from a business point of view, don't you want your audience to be comprised of more opportunity, people that present more opportunity to you? And how barrier driven is it that you were only thinking amongst, perhaps your people group or the people you went to school with? And you might think, oh well, this is a big enough pool, but the opportunity not just for business growth, but for growth in general and innovation is out there. And how exciting is that?
Yeah. I
You
mean,
know?
there was this article that will drop into the show notes that talks about the benefits of a diverse organization, and it does go beyond just the communications. Number one, there is a colleague, Lola Bakari, who works with companies to tie diversity initiatives to their bottom line. There is a financial benefit to companies being diverse.
Yep.
There are also other benefits that could tie into the bottom line, and this article brings out some of those things. When you have a diversity of perspectives, you really become a more innovative company. You have different ways of solving challenges because you're bringing together people that have different world experiences, different cultural viewpoints, different perspectives. That's healthy for your company. And so, far too often, people think of diversity is solving the racism problem, and it goes so far beyond that, so far beyond that. And while I am passionate about that as well on a personal level, being a diverse organization cannot be just to check that box. and
Right.
and if I am being 100% honest, I hate companies that simply think that you make a checklist and you check those boxes, because that's not true diversity.
Right.
That is doing something for its theater. It's not change, but there are so many facets and layers to this. And we know that as much as so many people want this to happen immediately, there really has to be a long term commitment to not just achieving objectives, but to making the behavioral and cultural shifts internally to truly be diverse. And if you're starting from ground zero, that's going to take some work, because as human beings, we all know that adopting new habits and changing, shifting the whole way that we look at things is not an overnight process. If it was, I promise you that I would probably be in a bikini today, but not there, not yet, not today, not on February 16th when we're doing this broadcast, because habits take time to change. Um, so I think we have to, help companies to understand that. And as we do as communicators, we have to start to think about it in bite-sized pieces as we're planning campaigns. Are we looking through a narrow lens? What can we do to diversify that? How can we help our client organizations to identify that narrowness from which they're seeing the world? How can we bring in other voices and opinions to help them open up their world and to invite in some of those differing perspectives to invite creativity?
Yeah, no, that's very true. And I think, of course, the wisdom of doing it slow and from the ground up makes sense, but it also helps people viewing you from the outside in, because people can tell when you're just doing it as theater. They can
Yeah.
tell. And it may not be an epiphany that they're having, but subconsciously they can tell. So you're hurting yourselves, you're hurting your audience, you're hurting your potential if you just decide to do the checkbox method. I mean, that's,
Yeah.
because like you said, it's nothing that's going to be solved. Well, by fourth quarter, we're going to have done X. It's like, no, that's not quite how this works. So it really is, an organic shift from within, and it really has to become part of your culture in so many
Yeah.
ways, and that takes time.
It's smart. And it
Thinking,
intentionality, right? You have to
yes,
be super
exactly.
intentional about it. And so in the beginning, I mean, just like, any change that you're starting, it doesn't feel natural at first, but it
Right.
takes you have to have an intentional effort. So you may have the will to make that change, which is a great starting point. And so you do things, you need those programs. And I say, put accountability standards in place for yourself.
Right.
So there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, we have a board of directors and we want to add two, people of color to our board by the end of this year. That is something that you can hold yourself accountable to. But
Mhm.
make the underlying changes and don't simply invite people because they're people of color.
Right.
You want to invite people that are the right fit, But having that objective holds you accountable, and then hold yourself accountable to an outside body. That's why, again, it helps to work with DEI experts and consultants that can come in and do audits for you and give you a game plan. And PR people, we love a strategic plan. We love a roadmap because it works, right?
It does.
It works. So you should have a game plan for your diversity efforts as well.
Right. Not only does the game plan serve to lead the way, but it also, in and of itself, it communicates and it helps establish this within your organization. So it is totally key. And, I've often thought for organizations, perhaps this might be more in the nonprofit world, but, every 5 years or so, you do a strategic planning session with an expert. Make that one of the main pillars of your strategic plan. And that's a great way to just build in that check-in with your organization and with yourself, and thinking of, salient ways to start, making these habits. I mean, the demographics of our whole nation are changing, and I personally, I think that's exciting, and thinking of all the great viewpoints and things that, oh my gosh, all the opportunities we might have missed, in years past. So
Yeah.
I think it's completely worthwhile, but it's not
Yeah.
easy. It's not easy in
I
every
agree. I mean, and
yeah.
as communicators, we sometimes we cannot shy away from these issues. So
Right.
some of the things that we're already doing, we are examining messaging to make sure that there's nothing offensive to a particular group of people. We're looking in a new way at language and the way that we frame
Right.
things. But it also means going deeper and being honest, having honest conversations. I'll give you a real world example that happened to me. There was someone that approached me and they wanted to, be inserted into the story about women's issues. And beautiful company, beautiful, leadership, but the person commenting was going to be a male. And when I looked at their organization, their top leadership was largely white men. And so I advised against it because that you're out of sync. You have the right, your heart is in the right place, your intentions are in the right place. And even though you believe in these things, there's no action behind what you're telling other people to do. You can't go out and say to everybody else, women deserve a seat at the table. There are smart, capable women. I'm thinking of them as this other class, that they should have as much access to opportunity as men. But then you look at your own leadership and it doesn't reflect anything that you're saying.
Right.
We, as PR people, really have to have the ability to have those hard conversations and to educate our clients on why these initiatives and some things that they want to do don't make sense. This month is Black History Month, and I'm sure you've all run into the question of, what do we say? Do we say anything? What do we do? It's,
Right.
Women's History Month, by the way, heads up, is next month. So get prepared for that. And there's going to be, there's all these months that, celebrate the diversity of our country. So you're going to have these questions throughout the year. And, in a lot of ways, I think that maybe we could take the heat out of that discussion by thinking, what do you do for Breast Cancer Awareness Month?
Right.
Well, maybe nothing if you're a car dealership, because
Right.
what do cars have to do with breast cancer? Not unless your founder is a breast cancer survivor and it's a passionate cause and you guys are involved in breast cancer initiatives throughout the year.
Right.
So when you think of it in those terms, some of the questions that we ask around these other types of months that have to do diversity, we can see how silly it all sounds because we have a lot of emotion and a lot of would have, should have, what should we be doing? We fear that by doing the wrong thing or not doing anything at all, that we're going to make a misstep. But I think that we have to, have a clear head even around those kinds of questions.
Yeah. And I think now more than ever, just with the polarized nature of our world that we live in, where anything can set someone off. Not that you should be afraid to assert your messaging, don't, but know that, oh, I was just saying hello today, and that kind of thing can happen. But yeah, it's like, am I on the field of this?
Mm.
Or is it just the thing to do? Yeah, I'll say, one of my client dealerships, they're the brand, has walks, charitable walks for breast cancer. So they try and make all of the dealerships do it, but sometimes it doesn't fit for everyone. Like personally, where we are located, both walks are far enough away, and then you look at the other side of it of the pink washing, which has definite reality. So you think, all right, well, how far do we want to go with this? What does it really matter to our day to day? So you just judge. I'm like, okay, of course we want to show we care because we do care, and just play it to the way that's most authentic to you, with this or any month, it's like you're not all, if everyone posted about Taco Tuesday on Tuesday, oh my goodness, the internet would be crazy.
Yes. I mean, I love that point too. You have a client though that is walking the talk. So it is authentic. It's authentic for them to participate in Breast Cancer Awareness Month because it's something that they're participating in anyway as a company. So
Right.
companies have causes, they have
Yeah.
things that they're involved in. So it's natural to participate in these, moments because it's authentic to them as an organization. When it comes to diversity, I get that it's trickier because unfortunately, a lot of companies aren't participating in it, but they need to
Yeah.
be. But it's not a good idea to not be participating in it, not be trying to do anything, and then to jump in with some Martin Luther King quotes in Black History Month. Please do not do that.
Thank you.
Or decide that the two Black employees that you do have are all of a sudden super popular, and you're
Oh,
going to make them the spotlight employee of the month. Make them the spotlight employee of the month because they deserve that in
yeah,
November or October or March or
exactly.
January. I mean,
Exactly. And that's where you can rely on your PR counselor to just, we are the cringeometers. We're going to tell you if
I
something
love
is going
that.
to appear cringy. I'm like, I know your heart's in the right place, but please don't do that.
Yeah. I love Chip's comment that, and he's absolutely right. Somebody is almost always going to be offended.
Yeah.
But look at this. I agree with Chip. It's more important to do the right thing than to say the right thing. Sometimes we're going to get the words wrong. Even as
Oh,
communicators, we're going to get it wrong because we're not perfect human beings. And
right.
that's why we have crisis plans. That's why we prepare for these things. But here is what I've said for years. If you have an ethical foundation as a company, and if your culture from top to bottom is ethical, and if you have deposited into your audiences by always doing the right thing, a misstep is not going to take you down.
Right.
And your audience who knows you, it's they
Uh-huh.
become kind of like your family. If you
Right.
say something stupid to, around your family, they're not going to hate your guts and kick you out of the family and say
Right.
you're off the island forever and ever and ever.
Right.
They're
Right.
going to forgive you if you have consistently shown your character to them because they
Yes.
know you and they know that people are human. You may irritate them in the moment. It may sound really dumb. They may tell you that it was really dumb to say, but they will not cast you out forever. So I think that Chip's point is something that we have to keep in mind as communicators and something that we have to encourage our clients because
Yeah.
I don't know about you guys, but I found that, in, almost 20 years of being in this business, companies they tend to really be shy about any type of change, any type of conflict. And so they
Mhm.
end up staying stuck in like a really narrow thing that they just do over and over and over and over again. And it takes a little like poke, 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 poke to get them to out of their comfort zone.
Yeah. No, no, totally true. Because, granted, they're focused on the business at hand, so which makes perfect sense. But realizing, well, there's a little more to this, there's a culture to build around it. But yeah, I mean, if you have all that goodwill in the bank, then your people know you. I mean, case in point, this has nothing to do with diversity, but recently in my little region, the little coupon clipper books you get, one of the Valentine's ads, the cappuccino design somehow slipped in a faded photo of an obscene naked man. And this went to print and went in people's mailboxes. And the pizza shop was mortified. And you know what? To their credit, no, we all know you. We know you were a family place. And honestly, most I didn't see one backlash post against them. It was thanks for the laugh. We're all so uptight these days. We need the laugh. We're all so tense. So thank you. And their business was probably booming, although I would not recommend that as a tactic.
Yeah, don't do that at home.
No, I was very glad. I'm like, oh, I'm so glad that was not. And I would still be in the corner, in the fetal position of no, 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 no.
I'm not even sure how, because that means that somewhere out there was floating this picture of naked guy.
Apparently he's a meme. I was not aware of him. And yeah, I'm still not sure I quite understand how that proofing process.
Oops.
So pro tip, make sure you use your nice big monitors and zoom on in and proof your things. And people, this is why when you put an ad in a third party place like that, always ask for a printer's proof or some kind of a final proof.
Yeah.
Sorry, back to the topic at hand.
That is a good tip. That is
a good tip. It's going to be a control freak sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, I think, if there's a takeaway from today's discussion is that we all have a lot to learn.
Yes.
And even if you are an advocate for diversity as separate from being a PR communicator, we still always have to keep a level head and understand that these are things that some of us are very passionate about, but you cannot give counsel from passion alone.
Right.
You need to really understand your client organizations, and you really need to help them to think through this critically and strategically, but it is to their benefit. And I can't drive that home enough. There's a whole TED Talk. We have a blog post on Solo PR Pro where we talked about this issue. I think it was in context of cognitive biases, but there's a whole TED Talk that talks about how being anti-racist benefits everyone. And it, along those same lines, becoming a diverse organization, really and truly, it's beyond being the feel-good squishy, we're a good company, we're doing the right thing. It is a financial benefit. Yeah. These are the things that CEOs can sink their teeth into. Yes. They can sink their teeth into the fact that this is going to benefit our bottom dollar, our bottom line, because what's the language of the executive suite? It's money, period. Yep. It's just money. And I'm not to say that companies are not ethical or that they don't have vision and want to serve, but without money, they can't do any of those things. So as a communicator, understanding those metrics can really help you to, have these discussions and pave the way. It's not just, oh, this feels good, it's the right thing to do, because that often falls on deaf ears. You need to learn how to speak in business language. And so paint the picture, be it, pull out some of these statistics and metrics to say, here's why this matters, because it makes us more money.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. If you have to start there, that's a good place to start. Well, we hope we've given you a bit of a starting point, or, maybe glean some information of perhaps if you're dealing with these issues with your clients, or if you need to broach this topic with your clients. So we just hope we've been a little bit helpful today. That makes us happy. And if this has been valuable to you, please do share it around. And thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time on That's Solo Life.